Okay, I'm very happy to be speaking here today. Thank you, everyone who is around. This is the title of my conference. I don't know if you can understand it. If not, then you will learn some Spanish today. It says "Think like a genius." So now you know how to write "Think like a genius" in Spanish. So one of the things that I think are very interesting about the time where we are living right now is in 1938, we had a plague. And in this plague, millions of people died. And also the economy was put upside down. And everything was in chaos, especially Europe. But what is important is what came after that. After that plague came the Renaissance. So can we be on the bridge of a new Renaissance? Can this be the beginning of something completely new that help us transform all these awful crises into opportunities? And if this happens, are we ready to take the learnings and transform them into the success that we need to overcome this crisis? In order to do that, I have done something that is study the life of geniuses in order to understand not only what they did, but also how they think, how they generate their brilliant ideas, how they got to those ideas, and then extract the learnings of that in order for anybody, anywhere, to apply those same practices into their daily thinking, so we can together generate a new renaissance after this crisis is over. So the first thing that I want you to talk about is the difference between ingenuity and geniality. So ingenuity is something that we all have. And what is that? That is our capacity to generate new ideas, and we can all generate new ideas. Some take more time, other people can generate more ideas, but we can all generate ideas. But what is the difference with a genius? Well, a genius is a person that generates an idea that changes everything and can generate more than one idea than generates a global impact that changes the lives of everybody on Earth. So one of the things that I want to break apart, and I want you to erase this from your head, is that you are not a genius. Because most of the time I start my talks asking who of you who are listening to this think that you are a genius. And nobody raised their hands. But in order to know if you can get to a genius level idea, you need to follow some principles and some dedication that maybe you have not applied before. So, a very interesting fact is that tests that were done to kids show that 97% of kids are genius-ready kids. They have the potential to become geniuses. But if you start talking to adults and take the same tests to them, then only 3 to 7% have that same potential. So something happens between us as kids and us as adults where we lose that potential. I think that our three main things are the ones that stop us from achieving our full potential. The first thing is our education. Our education system has been made to generate people that can produce and can repeat something successfully and can get into a fabric and can get into a factory. So our education is not ready to deal with people that ask questions and questions everything, that wants to go off topic to explore their curiosity, that wants to do things different. So every time you do something different in a school, in a university, you get a red marker, you get a big no. That is not the way things are done. That is not the way you solve the problem. That is not the way I ask you to do this homework, etc., etc. So we have to start changing the way we educate our kids. And the first change starts at home. A lot of families right now, all around the world, are stuck at home, and many have kids. So it's a good time to put your focus on what are you doing with the education of your kids? Are you celebrating when they do something different? Are you exploring their curiosity? Are you helping them answer those why questions? Or are you saying just shut up, and listen and do what I said? So education is in the schools, is in the universities, but it starts at home. And if we transform the way we educate others, then we can help people retain some of this creativity as they grow up. The second thing that I believe stops a lot of people is society itself, the structure of society. So one of the key transformations after the plague, when the Renaissance came, was that all structures of society became more flexible. And I think that we're going to see the same now. I think that we're seeing a lot of flexibility between businesses, governments, and other education, other structures that are becoming more flexible to be able to respond quicker to the challenges that we have ahead. So society is right now very, sometimes very challenging in order to convince a lot of people to follow a new idea, because we have this herd mentality where we do what most people do, and we do not celebrate difference. So I think that is one of the keys that we have to transform as well. We have to start celebrating difference. And I think that one of the other things that are very important and that really hinder our creative ability. Sorry, I don't know what happened, that I went back. Oh, again. Yes. Is the level of skill. So when I ask people, how much have you trained your creative skills? How much have you practiced creativity? Do you practice every day? Because we all have clear that if we want to be in shape, we have to work out, 3 times a week, every day, whatever. But if we want to have our creativity in shape, we do not work out. So how do we expect to be toned, to have our creativity strong if we don't train it every day or every week or many times per week? We do not say, oh no, I will only train when I have to run from a tiger that is chasing me. What? No, you train so when you have to escape a danger, your body is ready. So we have to do the same with creativity. We have to train creativity so when we need that new idea, then we have the skill that we need to get those ideas. Before we get into some of the geniuses, I want to give you 5 keys that for me are very, very, very important in order to achieve that genius level thinking. So these are things that we really have to pay attention. So the first thing is be very careful about the pressure for short-term results. Some degree of pressure can be helpful for creativity. For example, we are seeing right now an unprecedented crisis, and we're seeing people from all levels of society coming together with new ideas, new ways of doing ventilators, new ways of doing masks, new ways of distributing food, new ways of helping the elderly. So we are seeing a lot of creativity all around the world thanks to this pressure. But sometimes pressure can be too much. So if you're only focused on your result, then probably you will skip options that they do not lead you straight to your solution. So if those options lead you straight to the solution, then you will avoid going those directions because they go round and round. And if we learn something about creativity, is that it's never a straight line. You have to wander a little bit. You have to explore some paths that would lead you nowhere. But if you have too much pressure about the results, then you will avoid these new paths in order to go for things that give you a short-term result. So we need to have results, but if we put too much pressure on the short-term results, maybe that will hinder our creativity. Some time to explore must be allowed in order for creativity to arise. Then we can talk about how serious we are and how much we play. And I think that when we are too serious, we have sometimes too much ego to protect. So we are not open to hear other people's ideas. We do not share our ideas so freely. So we have to change our environments to something more playful. And we have to take, again, we have to destroy this concept that if we're having fun, then we are not having results. If we're having fun, then we are not making something important. I think that some of the best startups and of the best ideas came from people that was enjoying what they were doing. I think that if you link doing something great with being all serious and egotistical and only shouting and being mad, then is that the way that we want to work every time we have a problem? I don't think so. So it's a playful mindset, not just a play to have fun. It's a play where we are using a playful mindset in order to achieve better results. Another of the keys that I wanted to share is that we have to be willing to make mistakes and to celebrate the learning that come from those mistakes. And one of the things that is important here is nobody wants to make mistakes. It's not that we're saying, hey, I want to make as many mistakes as possible. No, I want to make as few mistakes as possible. But I understand that if I want to do something new, I will make mistakes. And I will celebrate each learning that comes from those mistakes. What I cannot celebrate is the mistake, because what I don't want is mistakes to keep happening, right? But if these mistakes took me to a key learning, then I will celebrate that learning because that mistake helped me move a step closer to my solution. And then we have to embrace diversity. Right now, we're in a conference with people from all over the world. And I think it's a celebration to the diversity and to creativity. And creativity works when we mix different things. So we need the most diverse environments possible. That doesn't mean that working in diverse environments is easy. On the contrary, it's quite hard. You have cultural differences, you have age differences, you have gender differences, you have education background difference, you have political background differences. So you have all these differences that you have to make into a team. But right now, with people connecting from all over the world to work, then if we are able to transform that diversity into something positive, then we will have exponentially more creative organizations. So we have to be able to embrace and foster diversity so our environments become more and more creative. And with all this, as we practice, we will gain confidence in our own creativity. Some of us do not trust that we're creative enough to solve X problem. I mean, we have some confidence to solve a small problem at my work, a business problem. But maybe when we are faced with a huge problem, then we lack the confidence to say, maybe I cannot solve that. That is for greater minds. And I think that we have to believe deeply in ourselves that we can solve anything, that anything that is thrown to us, we can have an idea that can help solve that problem. So if we gain that trust, then we will start reaching to wider and bigger problems. And I think that that is required right now, to try to solve bigger problems and do our best effort. Of course, we cannot guarantee. We cannot say, well, I will solve everything. It's not that attitude. It's the attitude of, yes, I will do my best effort to solve the biggest problem possible. And I am creative and I'm with a diverse team that have the right attitude. Maybe we can solve this. And those people who are crazy enough to think that they can solve a big problem, most of the time are the ones who solve it. So yes, you will be called crazy when you try to solve something very big. But that is the path that the genius took. Nobody called the genius immediately. Most of the time they were ostracized at first. And then after they proved their ideas right, they were embraced. So you will be crazy until your idea works and you prove everybody wrong by solving a problem that everybody has. So I think that it's very important to live through that you are crazy part of ideation and implementation of new ideas. So let's review some of the geniuses. I like that Thomas Edison. I like especially that he had perseverance. So one of the key things that geniuses have is that they kept on insisting and insisting on ways, on finding new ways, and did not stop when something failed. So Edison created the first lab with other minds, one of the first innovation labs with other great minds that helped him find new ideas. And they inspired each other, they created a lot of ideas together. And I think that finding another way is part of a creative mindset. What is another way? So let's search for one more solution. This is an image of the patent. And this laboratory alone generated more than 1,000 patents that are at Edison names, 1,000. So this is a lot of ideas. If you imagine that only a few ideas are good enough to be patented, imagine how many ideas this lab generated. So I think that mindset of we will generate and generate and generate, and we will trust that by being able to be constant in our generation efforts, a lot of ideas will arise that are valuable. And you can see it in the simple brick exercise. So you see this, and if I ask you, what do you see? You will say this is a brick. But if I ask you, what could you do with this brick? What this brick could be? How could you change it to be other things? How can you use it to solve other problems? Then anything that you have around us becomes a tool to solve the biggest problems that we're facing out there. So I think that one of the most important things is not only stops with what we are seeing, with what things are, but start thinking what things may be. How can I use the things that are there in new ways? How can I change things so the normal things that I have around me, that everyone sees as a brick, I see it as a way to solve a real problem. So a simple exercise that you can do to train your creativity is to just grab a normal, everyday household item like a brick, and think, what other things could I be doing just with this? Besides building a house or whatever, what other things might I be doing with this? So if you can do that, if you have some ideas right now that you want to share, you can share some of those ideas in the chat. You can stop and think and say, what else? What can I do with a brick? What else could I be doing? How can I use it in more creative ways? So if you're doing it right now and you can do it with a brick, that means that you can do it with anything that you have around you. You can grab your camera, you can grab your computer, you can grab your desk, you can grab anything that is around you and think, what other ways could I use this? What other uses can this have? And how can I transform it to solve a problem that I have or that people have? So I think that that's a very creative way of seeing the world around us. It's let's see the world around us, not just as it is, but as it could be. So one of the other geniuses that I wanted to go through is Leonardo da Vinci. Why Leonardo da Vinci, especially Leonardo da Vinci? Because Leonardo da Vinci is it's the master of the Renaissance. So what is the meaning of that? That Leonardo da Vinci is the sapere vedere, the know how to see things differently master.
Juan?
Yes.
Juan.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Oh, there we go. Sorry, we couldn't see the slides, but I can see it now.
You're not seeing the slides?
Comments. There, I can see it now. Yes, I'm sure it's the same for everyone else. I think maybe your screen went off or something. I'm not sure.
Okay, but for a minute or for the entire?
It was a few minutes. I think it's just like the previous slide.
Okay.
And I saw people in the chat starting to say they can't see it.
Okay, can you see it now?
No.
No? And now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we
you
will
might either need to swap your screen to if you have a secondary monitor, or just run it like this, Juan. I think it's
I can show it like this, no problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm sorry that you couldn't see the wonderful slides that I prepared. Okay, I will continue. The slides are not the important part. They are only the written words of what I'm saying. So why is observation so important? Well, one of the things that Leonardo da Vinci, that was the key of the Renaissance. I mean, he was there after the plague to transform the life of many people. One of the things that he teaches us is that you can watch and you can observe what is around you with new eyes. And if you pay attention to these little things that happen around you, you can get a lot of inspiration. So what you see here are actual drawings from Leonardo da Vinci, from his flying machines. He spent hours just watching birds, watching and drawing birds. From that, he started to envision how could he generate a machine that replicated what the birds were doing and that was capable of flying. So how much attention are you paying to things that are around you? I think that one of the things that the crisis has made is that made us pay attention to a lot of things that we maybe did not have the time or did not pay attention before. And I think that this is an opportunity to pay attention to small things that are around us and really observe. It's not just look at things, but really observe and ask ourselves, how is it working? Why does it work that way? What other ways could this be working? So if we really observe things with the aim of understanding what is going on behind that mechanism and why is it working that way, and why have nature made that design and didn't change it into other shapes or whatever, then we will gain a lot of insight that we can apply to our own ideas. So it's very important to have that observation mindset when we are finding solutions. And these kind of exercises, for example, can help us to observe and to sharpen our observing abilities. So I don't know what you're seeing here. Maybe you're seeing a duck, or maybe you are seeing a rabbit. It depends on your point of view. So when our points of view are fixed, we only see one thing. But when we are able to open our minds and see a situation from different perspectives, then we broaden our understanding and we get much more insights that then we can translate into new ideas. So have this time where I'm currently at my home confined, I cannot go out. So I had a lot of time to pay attention to even spots in my house that I didn't know. And I realized that a lot of people, I don't know if this happened to you guys, but a lot of people now knows exactly from which window of their house at what time the sun enters. Because something as simple as taking sun, it's difficult for someone that lives in an apartment. So they have to really time what time they are in front of their window, because they know that they have these hours to take sun in their home, and that is something that they never pay attention before. And this can spawn just a lot of new ideas on how can I build something that share that light with the rest of the house. How can I change the apartment so that we make sure that every apartment has light during the day? How can we, so we can transform all these observations into triggers that will lead you to new ideas. And Einstein also is another of the big geniuses that we studied and that help us that when we have a crisis, not its sizes, but we have a crisis. Let's fix this real time. So when we have a crisis, then we need creativity. What is the meaning of this? That if we don't go the creative route when we have a crisis, then the only solutions that are available to us are the solutions that we already used in the past. And if this situation is new, then we need to think on new solutions. That doesn't mean that we cannot learn from the past, but we can use that to inform us in order to generate new ideas. So one of the things that we can take out of this is how important creativity is as a skill in a time of crisis. And we are in a time of unprecedented crisis. So we need creativity more than ever. So I think that is a key learning that he had. And how did he reach to some of his greatest ideas? Well, one of the things that Einstein did really well was to mingle with another experts from different fields. So he was a very well-known physicist, but he reaches for people from mathematics, for example, that they are really, really good at math. And then he also liked to do off activities that didn't have a direct relation with his team every time he got stuck. So, for example, he went to his neighbor house to play the violin, and I think the neighbor played the piano. Two things that you can learn from here is combine your thinking with the thinking of people from another expertise area. So find someone that knows very little about your field, but knows a lot about a completely different field that you know nothing about, and then talk with that person, because that will enrich you the most. That will give you the best new perspectives in order to explore your idea. So if you find someone that is an expert at a different field and you bring it to a completely new problem, maybe the first thoughts that person have will not make much sense, will look foolish. But those foolish questions, those foolish ideas, those foolish thoughts that this person has are the ones that will lead you into new paths. Because as we become more experts in a field, it's more difficult for us to generate new ideas. So the more expert you are, the more you rely on what you already know, what you already apply, on your experience, etc., etc., etc. So it's very important that when we're generating ideas, we mix with a lot of new minds. I mean, that minds that think on different fields. And I think that one of the things that it's important, I think that and that makes sense to the talk that we're giving is when in an interview to Einstein in his last days, he was asked by the Ministry of Education what should education improve on in order to generate more geniuses, to generate brighter students. So his answer was very surprising because these investigators reached there and say, well, we have to transform our education. Let's see what Einstein is suggesting that we do. And he suggested that we needed to learn more history. And the interviews were perplexed. Why more history? Are we talking about new ideas and geniuses? Yes, but the way we need to study history has to change. Instead of just studying and memorizing facts, what we need to study is the mind and the character of the people that transform the world and learn how did they do it and take those learnings into our present day. So I think that when we think about geniuses, that's a little bit of what we're doing here. What we're doing is studying the character of people that transform the world over and over again, understanding how they did it, and then bring those learnings into our present day. One other genius that I think is it's important is Charles Darwin. And he's the one who said this famous phrase that it's not the stronger who survives, but the one who adapts the better. And every time there is a crisis, a lot of change comes afterward. So how fast can you or can an organization adapt? Because if you're not fast enough, then you will suffer a lot. So the rate that you are able to adapt and transform in times of crisis will determine how much you or your organization will suffer during that crisis. And we have seen this time and time again. You know, I don't have to remind everyone of examples like Kodak or very traditional companies that disappear because they were not able to adapt as fast. And the bigger you are, the harder it is to change. I mean, the more you know, or the bigger your team, the bigger your company, the harder it is to change. So one of the things that we have to find is how we relate to other people in new ways. How do we generate new structures that are more easy to change and transform than the structures that we have right now? So I think that one tool that we have to do that is thinking in systems. So instead of thinking, well, what is my department? What is my area? How do I change my, no. How does the system behaves? How can I change this system in order to be more flexible and prone to change? So when something happens, these connections can change rapidly. So the more structured and rigid your organization is, the most difficult is to change that structure. And if it's difficult to change in a time of crisis, it will really suffer. So there is a lot of need to think in systems in order to change these structures. And other thing that I really like about Charles Darwin is that he says that he really loved to do foolish experiments all the time. And I like this because it exemplifies this playful mindset and this willingness to explore new things. If you get to a manager that manages a team of 3, 4, 5 people, and you say, let's change the way your team is managed. Let's change the rules on how the team is managed, on who makes decisions, and how those decisions are made. What? Or what? No, this is safe, this works. Or if I get to your home and I say, let's change the rules of how your home behaves, who gives the rules, or what do we do during the day, then those can be some really bad ideas or really fun experiments. And if you try new things, you will find out new discoveries. But if you don't, because you're too scared to try something new, then you will start doing the same thing over and over again. So some things happen because you put your mind effort into it, and some things happen just by chance. For example, like cornflakes, like microwaves, or like Post-its. These are 3 stories of everyday products that are out there that they originated by chance. For example, microwaves, there was this person who was investigating how different satellites receptions, and it has a lot of antennas. And then he observed and he realized that one of the chocolates that were near an antenna melted. So he realized that these microwaves also were transmitting a lot of heat. So he got to a lot of inventions based on that. And one of them is the microwave. And the cornflakes were originally a mistake that they gave for free to customers, and the customers liked it so much that they went the next day and asked for that product again. Even if it was a mistake, they didn't care, they just wanted it again. Or Post-its, which was made with a glue that didn't glue strong enough. So they had to think, what do we use this for? And then they generated the Post-its. So when we do these foolish experiments with things that are not obviously useful, that you will throw away, then you can generate a lot of new ideas. And I want to, before I answer some of the questions that you have, I really like to answer questions and to have a conversation. So I would like to read the chat and see what you're saying, and have a conversation with about these themes that are so I'm so passionate about. I wanted to end with David Bohm, which is not such a popular genius as the previous one, but I think that he by having a lot of conversations with one really wise philosopher called Jiddu Krishnamurti, he realized that there was a need to put a lot of thinking on our thinking process. We think a lot about the things and the themes, but we do not stop to think, how are we thinking on those things? So I think that the process of thinking is a field that needs still a lot of development. And when you go to have a conversation with your team, with your family, are you aware of your thinking process? Or you just do whatever comes first? Do you say whatever comes first to your mind? Do you plan how are you going to manage thinking? Or you just manage the topics and the conversation and whatever is in the agenda? So I think that this is a very important field. And David Bohm, who, well, we have a lot of things that he worked on. He worked on the relativity theory, et cetera, et cetera. He worked with Einstein. So one of the things that I think I take as a great teaching from him is that how we manage conversations. So when we have a conversation, we are either trying to impose our view or exploring something with another person. So I share, so together we can reach to the truth or a discovery or an insight. I do not share because I have the truth and I will tell you what it is. And then we will spend the next hour arguing who is right, if this data is correct, if this data is not. And I see during this crisis, for example, I'm seeing a lot of government officials that are just using the same methods that they always use for arguing between each other. How do you really expect to generate better ideas if you are not able to explore new ways of thinking? So I think that it's very important that when we have a conversation with someone, we do not try to just impose our truth, to convince others of how right we are, but just share our point of vision and be open to what other people see and explore together to reach to a bigger understanding of what is happening. One of the ways that we're doing this is we generated this that Mark is going to introduce later, which is the Ideas World Cup, where everybody in the world can generate ideas to solve the crisis that the COVID is bringing. So this is a way to have a different way of conversation, a conversation that is based on how do we generate solutions instead of a conversation that is based on, oh my God, what is going to happen to me? Who can predict the future? Who can predict your future? Nobody. But you have in your hands the power to generate ideas that can take you out of the crisis or that can solve some of the problems that you have, but you have to exercise it. You have to have the time to think on these ideas. You need to have other people that give you new views for that theme, and you have to have also the perseverance to generate more and more and 1,001 ideas. Even at the beginning, those ideas seem like crazy ones. If you're willing to do foolish experiments, maybe you reach to some new understanding and to some new insights into what could be done in those situations. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. So I will be happy to take questions, and I will go through the comments. I saw comments and questions here, so I will go through them and I will try to answer as much as possible. Okay, I think that this is a great question, and is what if I believe in creative problem solving and other leaders don't? How can I influence other leaders to jump on board the creativity trend? Well, I will give you what I think that is my answer to it, because as I said before, it's not one truth, but it's out there. So what I like to do is to lead by example. So in order to convince someone that something works, it's very difficult if you just say it, if you just argue, you just give a list of benefits. So what I think that must be done is you should lead by example. So do something creative, apply creative problem solving to a problem, share your progress, share the challenge that you are dealing with, share the ideas that you reach for, that you reach to, and then share the results and share all these with someone that didn't believe that this was useful. And if it's necessary, do it again. And there is nothing that speaks louder than results. So I think that this phrase that I said before, it's crazy until you see it works. So at the beginning, you might find some resistance, but after you do it and you show it, but you show it from the first, not a black box, not just, okay, I will show it once I have the result, then I will share it. No, share your failures, share the learnings, share the entire path. So let's build creative problem solving in transparent rooms where everybody can see what we are doing, where we fail, and can come in with ideas on how to improve it. So show, not tell, I think is the best way to get people on board and maybe work together in a problem. Maybe say, don't worry, you just come to the sessions, observe, and see what happens during these sessions. And then you can decide for yourself if you believe in it or not, and if you want to use it for one of your challenges or not. So involve people, make them part, and make them understand what the process is about. Because I think that arguments alone don't go a very long way with someone that has a strong belief that this is useless. I had people think, well, playing is useless. You know, what are we going to play? This is a serious thing. This is a serious problem. What are we going to use play, or why would we use a game? So the best way that I have to convince those people is to come try it, play with me a little bit. And then if nothing useful come from this, then you're more than welcome to keep thinking whatever you think before. But maybe there is a chance that you will learn something new. So that would be my answer to that. So let's see another question. Okay, I think that here is a very, very good question. So it says, I love to hear an example of how you manage to turn anxiety to creativity, either in yourself or others. So I will speak about myself because I think that's the best way to share examples. It's easier to talk about, well, let's talk about the geniuses, and let's talk about the Silicon Valley companies, and let's talk about this startup and that startup. But I think that there's power in talking about what you did and how you deal with those situations and the ideas that you generate, etc., etc. So I talk about myself. So the first thing when you're feeling something is to allow yourself to have that feeling. So if you're feeling anxious, let yourself be anxious for a little bit. If you're sad, let yourself cry for a little bit. If you're angry, let yourself be angry for a little bit. But the key here is for a little bit. And once you experience the fullness of that emotion, don't get stuck in that emotion. How do you do that? Well, I think that I have two strategies that I think that really work and that apply, for example, for astronauts. Astronauts are in the space, are in a confined space. They cannot go out. They can have to talk with their family through video conference. There are a lot of dangers out there. They have a very small place. They don't see even a plant or a tree. So there are a lot of anxiety that goes there. So I think that there are two things that you can do, taking example from them. The first one is be very aware of the risks and how to prevent them. So you have to get to a point of knowledge where I know, okay, this is the way, for example, in this crisis, this is the way the virus is transmitting. This is the way I can avoid it. These are the measures that I will take, etc., etc., etc. Once that is done, once you manage the risk, because you cannot eliminate the risk, when you manage the risk, then you have to focus your attention on the things that are at your hand and that you can manage, the things that you can solve. Maybe you cannot help X hospital. You don't have the knowledge, you don't have a medical background, you don't have a 3D printer to do any crazy stuff. What you could manage is your relationship with other people. So maybe I will improve how my relationship is with my husband, with my kids, with a friend that I will start calling every day. So focus on the things that are at your hand that you can manage. And make a list maybe if you want, write them out and see how they improve over time. So don't stop focusing on a lot of things that you cannot manage, that you cannot control, and focus on the things that are at your hand. If we all do that, and we all improve what is around us, even a 1%, the change in the world will be astronomical. So it's easy to be intoxicated and consume a lot of news and feel helpless. So focus on the things that you can improve and start there. So let's see another question. There's, Okay, what advice would I give the UK? Well, it's very hard to give an advice to a country. I will talk to the UK people that is willing to listen, because the first thing is, if you want to talk to someone, is they have to be willing to listen. And I think that a lot of times there are just too many people that are not willing to listen. So that doesn't mean that we will not try. We can always try. We should try. but there is, I think, there is a lot of gains if you recognize who is willing to listen first. So for those who are willing to listen, I would say your fate is not dictated by your government, it's not dictated by your country, it's not dictated by the economy, it's not dictated by other people. You are not in control of the world, but you are in control of your life. So you can make wise choices every day. And I think that one of the things that we can learn from this is, why do we need a government to make a law to do something that is common sense for most people? So maybe we can use this crisis to have more accountability and make ourselves responsible for the things that we can manage and that we should be doing right. For example, right now, we're doing it right if in the countries where you are doing everything possible to stop the spread of the virus, even if that is not visiting some family or friends for a while. And if you have the means, helping out other small businesses or entrepreneurs that are that have problems. So I think that this could be a lesson for all the world in how can we as individuals take control of our fate, because I have serious expectations that governments around the world will solve this crisis. But I have complete hope on individuals and on people. And I know that together, if we put our minds and our hearts to it and we generate new ideas together, we can solve any crisis and any problem that is thrown at us. So that was the last question, I think. I don't know if any question was lost in the comments section. I see a lot of comments. I think that too many to read all while live. Did I miss did I miss any question that is important that is in the comments?
Well, there's one on the chat that says, why do we need government to make a law for what is common sense for people? Well, it's a quote, rather, it's a quote from you, it's not a question. Mm-hmm. Fred, did you pick any questions? It's more of really comments. All right. And comments from you, and everyone is thanking you, Juan, and we've come to the end really of your presentation.
For the last question that was here about Ideas World Cup, Mark, that is speaking afterwards, will speak it in detail. It's a non-for-profit event that joins minds from all around the world to solve human problems, in this case, the crisis of COVID-19. But Mark, that is just speaking after this, will be introducing you guys to this. So listen to Mark because he's great. And also, if you're curious about Ideas World Cup, he will share more of that. So thank you very much for being here and for listening. And thank you so much, Puleng and your entire team, for the invitation of putting our minds and hearts together in such a problematic and turbulent time. Maybe we can make a new renaissance together.
I think so. I think this is the beginning of something. It is a beginning of a revolution. And thank you for very, very practical. Everything that you said resonates so much. I must also share a story about you. So I went to visit Juan for a day in Madrid in February. And I went into his office at home. He has a home office, and all of the books that most of the books that he was reading are the books that informed my study as I was researching in the subject of creativity. We found we had so much in common, really influenced by the same body of knowledge. And he gave me the best book that's still here right behind me that I recommend for everybody who wants to know more about creativity. It's called Applied Imagination. So this is a book by Alex Osborne. Juan said this is the Bible of creativity.
That is the Bible. If I know one or two truths about the world, is that is the Bible of creativity.
That's it. That's it. The author is Alex Osborne, the founder of the Creative Education Foundation. Later on today, you're going to have a talk by the chairman of the Creative Education Foundation, Dwayne. So you'll ask him more about where to get the book and more about how to activate imagination. Juan, thank you. I also got to play with Pro Play.
Oh, nice.
So, Juan, did you tell them about Pro Play?
I didn't. Should I?
Please tell them a bit about it. Just, you still have 2 minutes.
Yes, of course. Well, we think that thinking in systems is very hard for a lot of people. So we generated a fun way to use toys that are personal, you can personalize, to think about systems, their relationship. For example, this little model here talks about Ideas World Cup. This is an organizer of Ideas World Cup. This is a participant that wants to win the award. These are the tools that we're providing for that participant that will connect through a computer and provide their ideas. And this is the award that every organizer that provides a lot of ideas will have. These are the dangers that we want to solve. So if we put it together in a model, we can see how these relate to each other. And we can see, okay, this tool, who is this tool for, and who has it and can share this tool with this participant. So what we do is we play with a playful mindset, but with a very serious problem in our mind. And through this playful mindset, we can reach to better solutions than if we don't use it. And for that, we use Playmobil Pro, which is a great tool that we use for that, and help us to materialize something that is very abstract. That is, what is the relationship between the participant and its own creativity, or the risk, or the tool. So we can make it tangible. So that is one of the tools that we have been developing, and now we're training people around the world, and it's fun.
Making love to the deep sound of soulful house music. An emotional journey